Collaborative law came about because I was very unhappy with my litigation practice. I hated my litigation practice. I hated to go to work in the morning. Um, I have this image that I've shared with people that back in the old days, when I was a kid, there were cowboy movies, and the cowboy used to come back to his shack in the evening, and he'd put a stick in the door with his hat on it to make sure no one shot at it before he went in the shack. And that was a feeling I had when I'd go to work in the morning, that something was you're gonna have some needs to crank up some affidavits or something you didn't expect to have happen, and all of a sudden you're gonna be into some furor. So I was just saying, I'm gonna get out of the practice of law. I was ready to quit. So I started taking some courses over at the U to see what some other profession. And then I thought, if I'm willing to quit the practice of law, maybe there's some way to do it outrageously, that where I can do what I like to do and not do what I don't like to do, still practice law. So I started experimenting with that. I tried 2 or 3 different approaches. It didn't work. And the closest thing was I had another compatriot. She was a lawyer that I got along with real well. We communicated real well. And I thought, if clients would come to each of us, well, we could sit around a table and work it out. We had no agreement at that time about getting out of the case if it didn't settle. So we settled about a dozen cases that way, very successfully, very good feeling. Then we got you always have that test case that shows up, people that are your great teachers show up, and this couple was very amenable in the first session, and after the first session, something happened between sessions where they were all of a sudden fighting with each other, shouting at each other, tearing each other apart. And so the working around the table stopped working. The other lawyer and I didn't have sense enough to get out of the case because we didn't have any agreement on that. So we took that case to trial, and it was horrible. It was one of those cases where all the dirty tricks in the world show up. And you start thinking, is this the client or is this the other lawyer that's doing this? He's trying to kind of sort that out, And basically what it did was it destroyed our relationship, even though we didn't think anything would. We lost some of our trust level. And the great learning for me was, the aha moment for me, the epiphany was, if you're a settlement lawyer, you got to get out of the case if it doesn't settle and turn it over to the trial lawyers. And what came to mind then was the traditional English solicitor barrister model, where the solicitors work up the cases and the barristers try them. So the solicitors don't go to court, traditionally at least. So that was a tremendous moment for me where I said, aha, that's the way to do it. And on January 1 of 1990, I declared myself a collaborative lawyer. Now, there weren't any other ones. So that said, oh, I better find some other ones. So that started getting me involved with trying to enroll some other people locally in doing that. And what the remarkable thing was, people started hearing about this. People started, it's sort of like the tuning fork. You hit a tuning fork and it vibrates, and over here there's a tuning fork. They start vibrating when they get to the same frequency. And I think that's what happened with collaborative law, and it started spreading around the country and around the world. My life is a joy after that. Now I practice in my home for the last 10 years. I office in my home. I come to the Collaborative Alliance Center for conferences. And it's just helping people. And the thing that's different, the main thing that's different is, our litigation, the responsibility and the focus of promoting and accomplishing something are with the lawyer. With collaborative law, the focus is on the clients, and you're there to help the clients, but you're not taking it on. And every so often now I see lawyers, particularly young lawyers who are in collaborative law, who have not made that shift totally. So they're still hanging on to the fact that they've got to make this happen. They've got to get the result that their client wants. And I tell them, pay attention to your body feelings. When I'm doing that, all of a sudden I notice that my stomach is tightening up. And that's a signal to me to back off and be supportive of what's going on, but not to try to make my thing happen with them. And they're still struggling, the young lawyers who are still hanging on are struggling with that same pain and suffering almost, that when they can't get their result to happen. It's very gratifying to see that something is making law better, that something is helping people. You know, it's like, from my Buddhist background, it's like everything you do is for the benefit of all sentient beings. And that's exactly what's happening with the collaborative law. You're putting it out there for the benefit of all sentient beings. It may not reach them, but you're putting it out there for that purpose.